I'm Vinny Politan. We are live in Nashville, Tennessee, where all the big players and big names in the world of true crime have gathered in one place. And tonight, they're going to be on the show as we are live from CrimeCon 2024. Chad and Lori Daybell, the doomsday couple, convicted of a string of horrendous murders. Little JJ, his sister Tylee, and Tammy Daybell. 3 lives taken so Chad and Lori could be alone together with a bag of money in Hawaii. Murders they tried to justify through a warped vision of religion and God involving zombies and darkness. Lori's been sentenced to life behind bars, and today is Judgment Day for the prophet, Chad Daybell.
Each visit, no matter where they lived, Lori always expressed her deep appreciation that we gave them the greatest gift ever. That is just one part of why this causes so much pain. It is a betrayal that can't be explained.
Meanwhile, BTK, the 3 letters that bring horror to the minds of so many in the true crime community. A serial killer who taunted police and went undetected for years. And now, shocking new revelations about BTK coming directly from his daughter. Tonight, Kerri Rawson joins us live to reveal this new information, live from CrimeCon 2024 in Nashville, Tennessee. I'm Vinny Politan. Welcome to a special edition of Closing Arguments. We are live in Nashville, Tennessee, and oh, wait a minute, who's that next to me? My co-host for the next 2 hours, Julie Grant.
Oh, it's so great to be with you, my friend. Vinny, wow.
So this is like Haley's Comet, because you're on in the morning, right. I'm at night. We never ever see each other, but now we're together for 2 hours.
I love it. This is so much fun. Thank you for having me, my friend.
Who else is with us?
Our other friend, Court TV crime and justice correspondent Matt Johnson's here too.
Matt, great to see you.
Great to see you both in person.
Yeah,
usually I'm out on the remote.
You're always on the monitor, right?
Yeah, I'm on
TV.
So here's the headline right now is I'm not wearing this top. I'm sitting here, I was expecting to be wearing this, but we're not, and we're in a verdict watch for Chad Daybell for the penalty phase.
Right.
What are your thoughts about where we are and this jury's taking their time? There hasn't been someone delivered the death penalty verdict since I think like 2017 or 2006. It's been a while in Idaho.
Right, Vinny, you're right about that. I think he could be the first to get that recommendation from this jury. I also think it's incredibly bizarre that we get to the penalty phase and they have no case presentation whatsoever.
That's strange.
I'm stunned at that.
Yeah.
He might as well have pleaded and saved everybody all of the time, saved the victims, the heartache. It's just a despicable case. He is a despicable defendant, and I am just shocked that after all of this and all of the delays and the preparation from his attorney that they came with nothing. No
mitigation case. And what's fascinating about that is he's Chad Daybell. Like, he's lived a life, he's done things, and this is your opportunity to give the jury any reason why you should live. And they're not giving the jury any reason why he should. And you think about the worst of the worst. 2 innocent children, a wife of 28 years who gives birth to your 5 children, and why do you do it? For the blonde with the blue eyes so you can get a bag of money and hang out down in Hawaii? What is that?
Well, I mean, number one, the verdict here at CrimeCon is the jury got it right?
Yeah.
I mean, number 2, when we saw his wife on trial, they put on no case whatsoever. Circumstances were different, but they deliberated for more than 8 hours. And this case, it wasn't that. So it's very interesting that we don't have the ultimate verdict yet on the penalty yet.
I know, but here's the thing, right? What days? It's Friday.
Right.
And I've been at Court TV, I think before you were born, I've been at Court TV.
I don't know about that.
But like 75%.
What about you, Vinny? Did I get lumped into that? No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
You were a toddler. So Can you believe she just did it to me?
No,
I feel bad.
No, because I got a birthday coming up, and it's always like every year,
Right.
I get a little older, I'm like, well,
But
anything
Fridays,
to give me a couple years off.
75% of verdicts come in on Fridays.
I know, you always say that.
It's
You
the Friday
started
factor.
the verdict red thing
It's
with
the,
your
it's
time.
the Friday. So I'm ready.
Right.
I'm ready for this verdict. But right now, let's go out to Court TV. Crime and Justice correspondent Kelly Craft, who is in Boise, Idaho tonight, on that verdict watch. I've been talking here. We've been talking here. Do we have a verdict?
Well, hi there, Vinny. No. And first of all, thank you to all of you for providing a moment of levity here, because it has just been a tough day here in Boise, Idaho. Of course, hearing the statements from the victims in this case and just how heartfelt they all were. And there was not a dry eye inside the courtroom. Most of the jurors were sobbing. We saw Larry Woodcock come out of the courtroom earlier today, and he just was wailing. Kay Woodcock trying to console him, but no movement yet. They have been deliberating, so this is the sentencing phase. They are deciding whether to spare Chad Daybell's life or to impose the death penalty on him. And so they have been deliberating now for about 4 hours. They did have a lunch break earlier, so I might be a little bit off on the time, and then they got going. No word yet on what time Judge Boyce, he is the judge, presiding judge in this case, what time he's going to tell them to stop. From our understanding, he's going to let them go as long as they want. They are sequestered. So it's possible if they don't reach a decision tonight, they even can come back tomorrow and work on Saturday. So right now, outside the courthouse, really, we have a bunch of media professionals still here. Inside, there still are family members and law enforcement officers, as well as the whole court crew that is inside the courthouse, keeping the doors open for people to come in and out. But just a very somber day here in all, as everyone awaits a decision from the jurors.
Kelly, would you tell us a little bit about the opening statements, or no, excuse me, about the victim impact statements, if you would, please? Some of the reactions you saw from the jurors, some of the reactions you saw in the gallery, anything specifically jumping out, even Chad Daybell, anything that you saw there from him?
Sure, Julie. Earlier, when the proceedings began this morning, we took notice of some distance that appeared between Chad Daybell as well as his defense counsel. So we weren't exactly certain what that was. We were trying to read into it because, as I heard you mention in the beginning of the show tonight, Chad Daybell did not make a statement in allocution. His team, his defense counsel, did not present any evidence in mitigation. And so we were wondering, is this something, the distance between them, is that because Chad Daybell told his attorney, no, but why are we bothering? Don't even present anything. And then, of course, defense counsels, a lot of times when they take these cases, they see the evidence stacked against them and they think, okay, well, at least maybe I can have a win in saving this man's life and fight for that. But here, the only thing that we heard from defense counsel John Pryor, he made his opening statement and then he also made his closing argument in order to try to save Chad Daybell's life. But throughout today, we heard 9 victim impact statements. We heard from Tammy Daybell's father, her 2 brothers. We also heard from Tylee Ryan's aunt. We heard from Kay Woodcock. Why don't we go ahead and play some of those victim impact statements?
The tragedy of the case has harmed our family's relationship with the kids. I will remain open to rebuilding a relationship with them. It makes me angry, and it destroys me to know Tammy was treated how she was. I find it comforting to know that Tammy is resting peacefully in Utah, buried alone, and near her beloved mother.
The decision was made to place Kanan with Charles and Lori after they approached us with their desire to have a child of their own. We agonized over the decision, but knew from our past interactions with them that it was the right one. Charles and Lori were granted custody a few short months later. It was then Kanan became JJ. It was happy and devastating at the same time. We loved raising him. We gave all our love and energy, ensuring he grew, thrived, and knew what unconditional love. That time was priceless, and his growth and milestones were evidence of our love for him. Each visit, no matter where they lived, Lori always expressed her deep appreciation that we gave them the greatest gift ever. That is just one part of why this causes so much pain. It is a betrayal that can't be explained.
I also found out in that chat she loved New York City. That was my open door. So I lobbed the idea of flying her out for her 18th birthday over the fence, and it was a hit. I plan to show her the best views that tourists don't know about, walk the High Line together, get real pizza, take her to the rotating restaurant in Times Square with breathtaking 360 views of the city, and let her reconnect with my daughter, who she hadn't seen since she was little. Her 18th birthday couldn't have been further from this celebratory event I had imagined. Excuse me. As her remains had been recently discovered in the defendant's backyard.
Always so tough to hear the victim impact statements in cases like these. And Julie, you did ask me any reaction from Chad Daybell. We did notice as the morning progressed, as the day progressed, the relationship between Chad Daybell and John Pryor, it seemed to warm up a bit. And then at the end, before jurors went back to deliberate, we did notice him smiling and chatting with John Pryor and seeming like his spirits were up. After that, I talked with some of the people, and they really, that reaction that he had inside the courtroom was not sitting very well with them, and it actually, they told me that it made them angry to see Chad Daybell laughing during some moments like this today.
Yeah, that is beyond bizarre. And when you think about what we're talking about here, we're talking about taking the lives of two children. And at any moment in your judgment day, right? This is where the jury's passing judgment. Now, you can think what you want about the death penalty, right? But it's the law. So right. it has to apply in some situation somewhere. And that's what I'm thinking about right now. Now, I know it's only been just over 4 hours. And, you know, that burden on a juror is real. It right. is real. Yes. So, Kelly, again, did the defense, what reason? Did they argue any reason why Chad Daybell should be spared? Like, what did they say?
So in John Pryor's opening statement, he did talk about Chad Daybell being a farm boy and a small town boy, saying that he didn't have any experience with relationships. He didn't have any experience with women trying to manipulate men. And then he met the bomb, Lori Vallow, and she changed the trajectory of his life. Why don't we go ahead and listen to some of the things that John Pryor had to say.
You can judge someone by their past and predict how they're going to be in the future, unless there's an interjecting trajectory that maybe changes the plan. And that trajectory that bomb that came into his life was a woman who previously had been married 4 times. And that bomb brought chaos to Chad Daybell's life.
So if those comments humanize Chad Daybell in the eyes of any of the jurors, we'll have to see if it generates some sort of compassion to spare his life. We'll have to see. Again, they've been deliberating about 4 hours. How long they're going to go tonight, I wish I could tell you, but we do not know.
All right, Kelly, so we'll be here. If you hear anything, let us know. We'll go straight to you and bring the verdict to everyone who's watching tonight and everyone here at CrimeCon. Thanks so much, Kelly.
Welcome.
And it's quite an exciting night for many reasons at CrimeCon, doing the show live here. We're on pins and needles. Just even the jury could come back tonight. We could have some finality to this case. Yeah. I mean, which has been so huge, as you know, for so many years in the true crime community, so many people following it, and we have so many wonderful fans here supporting us as we do this live show, and our Matt Johnson is with them right now. Matt Johnson, hey there, who are you talking to, please?
Yeah, Julie, Vinny, so let's first take a look at our live studio audience here at CrimeCon 2024. So, we all have a big reaction in the crowd. Many actually all of you, when we heard from Kelly Craft in her report that Chad didn't really have much experience with women. And what were your thoughts? What's your name and where are you from?
My name is Sam, and I'm from Arizona. And just hope the jury gets it right, honestly.
Do you think we're going to have a verdict red tie night for Vinny?
I sure hope so. We're all excited to see.
Oh, round of applause over here. All right, let me come on this side. So what's your name and where are you from?
Sherry, and I'm from Brentwood, Tennessee.
So talk to me about this case. I know it's really impacted everyone coast to coast as this has been playing out, and it all started with the Woodcocks. Where are the children?
That's really hoping that they come back with a verdict, but I mean, he's the prophet, so we would expect that maybe he knows something we don't. I don't know. Maybe he knows it's coming back, and he figured it's futile to put on a case. I don't know.
Yeah, the prophet who predicted the end of the world, the doomsday prophet, and not much experience with women, right? Yeah, okay. So we'll send it back to you guys.
All right, thanks so much, Matt. All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to stay on a verdict watch tonight. It happens. You'll see it. You'll hear it right here on Closing Arguments. But when we come back, let's talk about another Daybell, another trial for another murder. That's next. This is where all the action is. This is the Court TV booth. This is your front row seat to CrimeCon. The original true crime obsession. We've got people's obsessions. They're writing them all up here. Killer or cover-up murder, the McDonald family case, the Moscow murders, justice. We love Court TV. These people really love Court TV. How much do you love Court TV? 100%. In 2011, Karen Swift returned home from a Halloween party
and was never seen alive again.
Weeks later, her body was found near a cemetery.
The case then went cold for over a decade.
Now, her estranged husband faces trial for her murder.
The couple was going through a bitter breakup.
But did divorce lead David Swift to kill?
The Karen Swift murder trial. Live coverage weekday mornings only on Court TV.
Story. She's had kind of a dreadful reality. She thinks you're LDS?
Yes.
She thinks she's married to Moroni in the past.
You think she's what?
Was married to Moroni at the top of the temple. I've tried to support her as much as I could, but it's gotten really, really bad. Lately she's had a break. She says, I'm Nick Snyder. I've taken over Charles's body. And Charles will get killed. I'm going to kill you. You're going to be murdered today or tomorrow.
I just went back to the living room. Like, what is your problem?
With the gun again?
Yes. And I said, I want you to put that bat down. And he wouldn't do it. And he's like, and he came at me with the bat again after he'd already hit me in the head. So I shot him to stop him.
Gotcha. How long have you guys lived here?
Okay.
How long have you lived here?
Like 3 weeks.
Oh, geez. Yeah, okay.
That's why the neighbors don't know us.
Gotcha.
Like, hi, neighbor, sorry.
I was definitely.
Welcome back. We're on a verdict watch live at CrimeCon 2024. I'm here with Julie Grant,
Good to be
co-hosting
with you,
tonight.
my friend. Good to see you.
Lori Daybell's got another trial coming up in Arizona for the murder of Charles. So let's bring our special guest joining us, regular on your show, regular on my show. Mike King, he's a religious cult expert, retired police commander, host of the Profiling Evil podcast, author of the book Deceived. How you doing?
I'm having a blast here, and it's so fun to be with the two of you. Thank you. And to see Matt actually schlepping around in the audience is so cool.
Yeah. So as we sit here tonight, getting ready for a verdict, we're on a verdict watch for Chad Daybell. And secondly, Lori's got a trial coming up. Yeah. And I'm wondering how all of this may have played differently if Alex Cox didn't die on the toilet.
You know, Vinny, that one's really got to me because I think, number one, they had a perfect scapegoat when he died. But I don't know if that guy was starting to show a hair of a conscience toward the end when he said, I might be the goat here. That guy might have actually become somebody that the defense was hating to have on a stand and the prosecution was excited to have. Because if he truly believed all of this malarkey, he might have been the guy that stands up on the rooftop and said, hey, I was killing zombies, man. I was doing God's work.
I'll tell you something interesting. I know that Alex Cox's autopsy said that he died of natural causes. I don't believe it. No. And I had his brother Adam Cox on my show pretty recently, you know, talking about Chad Daybell's case, talking about just how it's affected the children. He's become a tremendous advocate for those kids, their memory, their legacy. And he said to me, you know, Julie, I don't believe it was natural causes either. It's very suspicious to me as well, the way in which he died. So to your point, Commander, and I know, Vinny, you agree as well, it does seem sinister that perhaps he was just figuring out after all of that dirty work that he did for them, with them, that he was thinking, uh-oh, now I'm next. And all of his actions indicate that that's what he thought, and then sure enough, he was.
Yeah, and you know, I think about Alex Cox thinking, holy cow, I'm next. But what's Chad Daybell thinking? Because he's got to be thinking the Black Widow's going to strike again, and I'm next, too. I mean, this whole thing could not have been written.
Well, the interesting thing is Alex Cox was like Lori's protector. But he was also, I think there's a streak of jealousy in Alex Cox. I think he loved Lori, like loved her in the wrong way.
Inappropriate.
In a weird way.
In a very
it was a little weird, the relationship there. Yeah.
He would go after her husbands.
Right.
He went to jail for using a stun gun on the groin of one. He shot and killed Charles Vallow. We know that. He admitted it right there. And I wonder if Chad, at any point, perhaps felt threatened by him. And did that have any connection to what may have happened to Alex Cox?
Vinny, that's it. Really, really interesting theory that I've never heard.
Is it too dark?
No, I love it. I'm with you. As you're laying this out, that is interesting. You wonder if Chad was jealous. I could see that.
You know, and I love this concept because we could create a little conspiracy theory here, but the idea is that then that would require the prophet to come up with more revelation. And what better timing than to give this patriarchal blessing where he says, hey, I'm the voice of God, but you, by golly, are the arm of God. You're the one that gets to do it. And he brings Alex back in line with, hey, I'm the authority here, but you're lucky enough to be the one that gets to do the dirty work.
It's unreal. Do you think that the trial's going to be any different, this trial for Lori?
You know, that's a good question. I think it's going to end in a guilty verdict for another homicide conviction for her.
You think she'll testify
keep
about
racking
this one?
them up. I don't think that she will. I think she's kind of on another planet. Like, I look at her and I really think she lives on planet Lori, where everything's all about her and she's the goddess. And I think she's still in love with Chad, and I think he hates her guts. I think he is like, she got me in this world of trouble. I don't think there is a marriage anymore. Maybe, who knows, maybe they're portaling to one another from prison, maybe. But I really hope that Charles gets justice, because that man, what a wonderful man, as you both know. He was the last line of defense for those kids. He knew what was going on with those maniacs. He knew, he tried to protect them, and by all accounts, everybody says what a wonderful human being he was. So you know, I understand that the way the whole story started was because of the missing kids, right? And we all, I know you both feel this way too, we don't want to see Charles get lost. We want to see justice for him in this trial.
Absolutely. How do you see this trial playing out for Lori, accused of the murder of Charles Vallow?
So I would think that the prosecution, and I'm going to really look to the two prosecutors in the room here.
Oh, you're the commander.
To this. But the idea that they could move at a much faster track now because they know what kind of things are going to resonate with a jury and what things are not. They can really move quickly. But the thing I keep wondering about that I want the prosecutor opinion on is it possible now that Chad could be pulled back into this murder conspiracy and also be charged? Because they backed away pretty quick, but now they've got a lot more info, don't they?
They do. I was shocked because they're in they're in contact with one another, like Alex and Chad and Lori, and that's why I was surprised that Chad wasn't charged in that one. They may not need to after tonight if we get this verdict. We're getting up to close to 4.5 hours. But let's do this. You're gonna stick around, right?
Yes, sir.
Come back with us later. Let's go back to Matt Johnson, who's with the folks who are here at CrimeCon, and I wonder what they think about Lori Daybell and yet another trial for Lori, Matt.
Right, take two for Lori Vallow Daybell, the Doomsday Cult mom in Arizona, Maricopa County. And, you know, I was in that courtroom, Vinny, when she would stare at me and laugh at those witnesses. I'm wondering how she's going to be reacting when she hears that her hubby threw her under the bus. What do you think she's going to be thinking?
I think she's going to be thinking that her husband threw her under the bus. And
is there still love there between the two?
Lori only loves herself. I do not think that there's any love there, and I think Chad would have been her next victim.
Your thoughts on all of this and your name?
Nadine. I think she's just a wicked woman, and I think that I don't even think she's aware that he threw her under the bus. I really don't. I think she's a little off.
Wouldn't we all like to be a fly on the wall of that prison cell when she learns the news that she didn't want to say anything bad about her husband, the Doomsday Prophet, and then he pointed the finger at her, Vinny?
That's a great point. Thanks so much, Matt. That is a huge point. I still think she'll be like, oh, la, la.
Oh, yeah. Vinny, I thought she could be a witness for him, for the defense. I really did. I truly believe that if John Pryor would have sent a subpoena over to the prison where she is and said, we want you to come in and testify, I think she would have jumped at the chance to say wonderful things about her husband and do anything to help him out. But I don't think we can say the same for him. I think he would not be interested in helping her out.
All right, we're about 4.5 hours into our verdict watch. We'll keep that going. But when we come back, we're going to switch gears because there's big news today coming in the BTK case. His daughter, Kerri Rawson, joins us live next. What's your biggest true crime session right now?
Well, I think it's the Sebastian Rogers case. I think that's kind of my big one. I still want to know what really happened to Riley Stain, and I was obviously involved in the Daybell stuff from like day one, so that was exciting. I wanted to get into the Karen Reed trial, but I got too confused, so I got lost.
What did you do then?
Strangled her.
What did you strangle her with?
Pantyhose.
All right, what happened then?
I kind of like Mrs. Hedge. I already figured out I had a plan on leaving and put her in a blanket and drug her to the car, put her in the trunk of the car.
So you were able to strangle her to death with these pantyhose?
Yes, sir.
I need to put this down once we go live.
It's scary when you see this man, BTK, and when you hear him and you learn the story, but could you imagine growing up and that's your father?
Yeah, and that's something I talk about from time to time on my show, how when you have someone that carries out a homicide or multiple homicides, they're victimizing so many people, including their own family members.
Absolutely. And joining us now is BTK's daughter, Kerri Rawson. Kerri, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Nice to see you.
And the buzz here at CrimeCon is about the news that you are sort of breaking, the revelation that you're having. So why don't you explain to us, the folks at home, and everybody here, what you discovered and figured out?
Yeah, so last year, it became news that my father was being looked at in the cold case of a missing 16-year-old from Pawhuska, Oklahoma, named Cindy Kinney. She went missing from a laundromat in '76 before I was born. And Sheriff Furden from Osage County started looking at that case and thinking it possibly could be my father for multiple reasons. And then a few months later, they started looking at the murder cold case of Shauna Garber in Missouri. And when I looked at that case, she was covered with multiple types of bondage and strangled. And when I saw that bondage, I instantly thought of my father. And so at that point in June of 23, I reached out to Osage County and offered my volunteer assistance as his daughter and as basically an expert on my father.
An insider, right?
An
That was
insider.
awesome, you did.
And so I flew into Oklahoma pretty quickly after that. And so the first night when I got into Oklahoma in Osage County, I met like a whole room full of officers at Osage County, and I was like, why are all these people here? Well, they were there to witness me being notified that I'm very likely a sexual abuse victim, which I didn't know. And so I go into this room, and they fill me in on why they think my dad could have kidnapped Cindy. And then they pull up these journals. So my dad kept these like spiral notebooks, and he would like keep track of it long after and keep memories in them, and he dates it, very meticulous, like Nazi-like notes. And all of this has been digitalized. It was all digitalized in 2005 by the FBI and law enforcement. And so we're up on a big screen, and they're like, can you read this? And so I'm reading it through, because they had discovered this note, and they wanted me to notify me as a victim. And they let me find it. And I'm like standing there, and I point to it, and in all block letters, it says Kerri, KERI/BND/game 1981, and I would have been about 2.5. And I know BND stands for bondage. And I said, what the heck is this? And then it hit me, that had been in my dad's journals in evidence that the FBI had, the KBI had, Wichita had for 18 years, and nobody told me. Clear as day. And it took Osage County to find it and notify me. And we stopped, and they said, now we got to do victim services. And I went into a private room with a special detective, and we did victim services for me. And then we went back in, and there was another notation, again, about abuse. And the next day, then I had to go in to prison and visit my dad for the first time in 18 years. So the reason I didn't share this at last CrimeCon was because all of this stuff was breaking. My dad's yard was dug up. All of this stuff was going on, and I was having to process it in therapy. And then also I was hitting legal gags and NDAs. And I was like, the law enforcement was saying, we don't really want you to put this out there because it could upset your father. But at this point, I'm like, it's my story to tell.
Right.
And so when CrimeCon offered me a stage and a spot, an open mic, and Jane Carson Sandler and the Petito family and Mo, like, we just went for it today.
Atta girl. Well, Kerri, we're so sorry. I know I speak for Vinny when I say we're so sorry. When you learned this, did it bring back any memories from childhood?
Yeah, so the crazy thing is, so when I was 6, Mrs. Hedge was murdered down the street. And then when I was 6, I knew that she had gone missing during a thunderstorm in April of '85. I knew my dad was gone when I was 6. And I knew that the phone line had been cut. A 6-year-old shouldn't know these things. I knew she had been, she was missing. And then I knew a week later they found her body strangled. Now, I don't know how I knew this as a 6-year-old. So my dad must have been talking about it with my mom, or I heard it on TV. I know my dad was talking about it with my mom because he was blaming her boyfriend. Like, wow. And the police had interviewed my mom, canvassing the neighborhood, but not my dad. They never did. So in 2005, when I was notified that my dad was BTK, they had arrested him on 8, but not on Mrs. Hedge. And then when the FBI notified me in 2005, I said, no, it can't be Dad. And then I remembered Mrs. Hedge and the details, and my stomach ripped. And I said, I think Dad murdered Mrs. Hedge. He had been camping and used it as an alibi, and I knew he was gone that night because of the thunderstorm, and I slept with Mom. So starting around the time Mrs. Hedge was murdered, I started having night terrors, and I was screaming at night. And, you know, I was even wetting the bed past when I should have, and I was having all those signs of a sexual abuse victim. My mother would come in, always my mom, and I would say, Mom, there's a bad man in the house. There's a bad man in the house, over and over and over. And I didn't get any help. I mean, they didn't really have mental therapy for children or any kind of help. But my dad told Dr. Ramslin in 2016 when they wrote a book, he said, I was worried about Kerri having these night terrors after I murdered Mrs. Hedge, but I also got off on it. So he was completely aware. And I read that in 2016. So when I started kind of becoming more aware of things, like, I knew there was something, I still have night terrors still, after all this therapy. I knew there was something stuck. It's just like this guy, like something here, and my night terror is always somebody coming into bed to kill me. Always always somebody looming in the doorway and coming in. And it's like stuck here. And I thought, my God, am I seeing what he did to Mrs. Hedge? Because he crawled into her bed. Her house is laid out exactly like our house. And so when I had talked to detectives that had helped catch my dad, I had talked to Dr. Ramslin, other criminologists, I said, was he maybe practicing? Because they said, well, maybe he scared you accidentally. Maybe he was coming in, leaving, dressing up, wearing a mask, practicing. Then I said, was he practicing bondage on me? And that was before I saw that. You know, was he doing some kind of sexual abuse that didn't leave any physical marks? Because we know he didn't rape the victims that we know of, right? But he did things next to him. So all of this was kind of compiling. And it was like there was this missing component, that something was not adding up in therapy, that we didn't know what was wrong. And then that night in Osage, I saw that and I knew exactly what it was. A month later, I was back helping them. I was in the evidence files. Now, we've all seen Polaroids of my dad dressed up.
Right, yeah.
There's about 90% of stuff nobody in the public have seen. There's a Polaroid of him dressed up like a woman in a white outfit, blonde wig, and he's over a doll that he made that's a little girl in my old dress. And she's about 4. And he's in missionary position, and he's strangling the doll. And he took that photo in a motel party. And when I saw that photo, I said, that's what he did to me, and I know 100% that's what he did to me. So in October of this year, for my 5th visit, I wasn't supposed to tell him. They were like, law enforcement's like, you're a little upsetting. Just go in, ask about all the other possible victims. Do not bring this up. I had a whole plan in place. Right. I go in. Dad has to waive Miranda for law enforcement to go in, so I have to get him to waive Miranda. It's a lot of pressure on me. He was mad. He goes, I thought this investigation was over. Why are you here? Why are you working with law enforcement? You're a traitor, like a blood traitor.
Oh, please, no.
So then he gets really mad at me, and all of a sudden my PTSD spun up, because it was like, he was like, I was 16 again, and he was the guy like trying to hurt me. And it was like I wasn't present. And so this whole thing erupted, and he goes, what is wrong with you? And I said, I have PTSD, and he goes, what is that? And then he gaslit, mentally abused, emotionally abused. Right. And so then I just laid it out. Yeah, because I had done therapy and I had done EMDR on it. Right. Right before I went in there to see him. Right. And it was like I was strong all of a sudden. Yeah, right. And I just nailed him. Strong. Like with everything, Hedge, like the body in the church, everything, the abuse.
What did he say when you asked him about the abuse? Yeah, okay, we'll see.
You're going to stay here, right?
Yeah.
She's going. Thanks so much for sharing this.
Wow.
What we're going to do right now, we're going to bring in Dr. Ramslin to join us when we come back. Don't go anywhere. We're live at CrimeCon 2024 in Nashville, Tennessee.
Sorry, I need to watch the clock. Sorry about that.
We are a true crime podcast, and we discuss murders committed by Black women. We talk about their life. We talk about the different socioeconomic disparities that they may have gone through that led up to a life of crime.
On the next episode of Accomplice to Murder.
The crime has the hallmarks of a murder for hire.
Just before pulling the trigger one last time, he told Ron,
I'm going to get you. This is for her.
He implicated Ann Trexler as the person who paid for the killing.
The former mother-in-law of the murdered Ron Stovall.
Accomplice to Murder with Vinnie Politan. All new episode, Sunday night, 8/7 Central.
Only on Court TV.
Great B warranty.
GEDmatch. What is it?
GEDmatch is a website where if you've done a DNA test with Ancestry, 23andMe, any of the major DNA testing companies, you can take that DNA data, download it, and then upload it to GEDmatch for free. And you can get matched with over 2 million people that are from all different testing companies all across the world. I think at this point, over 1,000 cases have been solved.
Welcome back. We are live at CrimeCon 2024 in Nashville, Tennessee. Julie Grant, my co-host, with me. We're still on a verdict watch. We can't forget we're on a verdict watch for the death penalty of Chad Daybell. We're right now focusing on BTK.
We are.
BTK's daughter's with us, and also joining us right now, I want to make sure I get everything right, professor of forensic psychology, author of 71 books on extreme offenders, including Confessions of a Serial Killer, The Untold Story of Dennis Rader, the BTK killer, Dr. Catherine Ramsland. Dr. Ramsland, thanks so much for joining us. From your perspective, what is the biggest misperception of serial killers and their minds that you think the public may have?
That they're all the same, that they somehow we can figure out nature versus nurture, and that it's a criminal type rather than a description of a behavior. Because there's a lot of range, and we have over 5,000 documented. There's a lot of differences among them, but people often approach it as if it's a formula, like it's a criminal type.
Right, and the formula is, right, they kill animals and insects when they're young, right? They do things like that. Is that true?
No.
No?
Some do, but not all of them.
Fire starting.
Fire starting, some do, but not all of them. So there's the one thing is that you've killed at least 2 people on 2 occasions. That's the one behavior, because that's what defines a serial killer.
Dr. Catherine, in studying Dennis Rader in particular, writing with him, what surprised you the most about him?
About him? I think when he would react to violence on TV in a very judgmental way, as if this was not okay to show these images on TV. And also he told me when we started to play a game of chess, don't cheat.
Oh, he's a total rule. Oh my God, he had a cuss jar on the refrigerator, and as a teenager, you better not cuss because it was going to cost you.
So profanity was a problem for him.
But murder was okay.
But homicides were not, right,
Yeah.
Kerri?
But violent images in fictional shows, he would take offense at.
But then he watched 8mm with me, and he took me to 7 and got off on it. But then he's over here being Mr. Law-abiding to Dr. Ramsland.
Wow.
So, do they, serial killers, and again, it might be different for all of them, do they ultimately all want to get the recognition?
No. There were some who, like Israel Keys, did not want any media. He wanted to just get this over with. He wanted to be executed. He did not want any media. So he's just an example, but they don't all confess. They don't all talk about it.
Does he have DID, dissociative identity disorder, or multiple personality disorder? Dennis Rader.
No.
I'm just curious. When you said he was like one person,
No,
one mom,
he cubes, which is a term Dr. Ramsland came up with. He cubes, if you want to
It's like he
explain
has
it.
multiple sides that he can pivot.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah,
by the
that's not.
multiple
No,
personality.
he
He's
flips.
not-
He's flipping. And what she explained, her and my dad developed this term cubing.
Cubing.
He's like showing you officer, church person, father, and he actually has a uniform for even taking
And
out
it's
the trash.
not multiple personalities.
No, he's in
Okay.
control of it.
Wow.
And I thought, listening
Wow.
to her, it was a slow thing, but then when I went into prison and saw it, he's spinning a dice very quickly, and you go, it's like dad, BTK, psychopath, unknown, dad, it's very, very fast.
Because he's not deeply rooted in integrity. So he can
Right,
switch whenever the situation calls for.
So can you spot one? Like, is it possible to spot a serial killer, like, before they get caught, and just by knowing them? Like, if you were spending time in an office setting or something, do you think you could recognize?
I would see certain behaviors that I would say are potential red flags, but that doesn't mean I could definitely identify a serial killer.
No, like I can tell you now, like a narcissist or a psychopath, like they have tells, but that doesn't, you can be a healthy psychopath and run a business and not be a murderer.
Yeah. Kerri, back to your story when you were starting to share how you went to prison and you didn't plan to confront Dad with the alleged sex abuse, but then things went differently than you had planned, and you did. What did he say? Did he admit it?
No, he denied it. He got very mad and very evasive, and he goes, I never touched family. And I said, that's a lie, Dad, because you strangled my brother twice in front of us as a young adult, and I saw it. So we know you did touch family. We know you physically abused my brother. And so law enforcement, he waived Miranda, and law enforcement came in, and they pulled the journal up. And I said, because if you present facts to my father in the first cases, when they presented facts, he did confess. I presented the facts to him. I said, what does this say? He goes, oh, it was just a fantasy. So he goes from I never touched family.
It's a fantasy.
When you prove it to him, oh, it was a fantasy.
Has an answer for everything. Carrie Rawson, thank you so much for sharing your story. Dr. Ramsland, great to see you as well. We appreciate it. All right, folks, we've got more to get to. We've got another hour live from CrimeCon. We're on a verdict watch. Everything is happening. Gabby Petito's parents, all four, will join us when we come back.
I can't wait.
This is where all the action is. This is the Court TV booth. This is your front row seat to CrimeCon. I've got an exclusive interview, folks. A lot of people are watching right now. So tell me, why didn't you testify at your trial? Still not speaking. Why are you here?
Because I am a true crime junkie at heart. I cannot help myself.
How long you been addicted?
Ooh, all my life.
Some people look smaller on TV, and some people look a lot bigger. What's the big one right now?
Honestly, it was Micah Miller. I'm still on that, but I've been venturing into the Karen Reed case, looking into that a little bit more.
Heading up to Massachusetts for Karen Reed, right?
Yeah.
Pascal in the house. Huge. Great to see you. What's your biggest obsession right now?
I think it's the Sebastian Rogers case. I think that's kind of my big one. I still want to know what really happened to Riley Stain, and I was obviously involved in the Daybell stuff from like day one, so that was exciting.
Got to catch them because they leave the DNA behind, and now, boom, Jed match. Locking them up, baby. Well, great to meet you. Thanks again for helping out Court TV.
Absolutely. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
The sisters.
The importance of Black and Missing is to bring awareness to people of color that go missing. Just trying to level the playing field and make sure that we get equal coverage throughout the media.
Safety first. Tell me about this.
This is the Safely Sidekick. It has 5 features in one device. So you've got your pepper spray, you've got your knuckles, really bright light, different settings, a glass breaker, and a 130 decibel alarm all in one device.